Let's talk about and define what the Flux Mindset is. Was the old leadership models of control go out the door. What we're doing is we're fighting against our physiological response to change, to fear, and we try to control it. Flux Mindset does not equal passive adaptability. It doesn't mean that you just sit back and allow things to happen. Your team will mirror your response to uncertainty. Chaos is an opportunity, not an obstacle. You become unstoppable as a leader. Welcome, everybody, to today's episode. We're going to talk about the one mindset that just may change your business or your team. Chaos. It's all around us. Does it feel like our industry's changing, our market's changing, the algorithms are changing, everything is in flux? Well, what if you had a flux mindset? Rather than trying to figure out everything, we developed flexibility and adaptability. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. 3 strategies as always. I love the rule of 3. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to take away some practical applications that you can apply with your teams and in your businesses as soon as you get done listening to this podcast. So wait till the end, because as always, the third one, it's always a little special. It brings together the first 2. And to be honest with you, this episode, I had fun journaling. I got 3 pages of notes that this morning when I was thinking about this, I just couldn't stop pouring things out of my brain, whether they were practical applications or strategies that I've used, that I've coached on in the businesses. It's really going to be an exciting episode. So again, if you're not subscribed, click on that subscribe button, ring that bell, leave a comment. I want this to be engaging. Put down strategies if you got them. I want this community to begin to share, and that's where we're really going to pour into each other. The Go Be Great community, you're part of something that's very, very special. So the first strategy here, let's talk about and define what the Flux Mindset is. And when I was coming up with this, my mind went to Back to the Future, because what does Back to the Future have? What did Doc have? A flux capacitor. And what did that capacitor do? That's what operated the time machine, right? And that's really what we're talking about, is we have to remain steady in order to be flexible through chaos. And one thing, I wrote this down, is accepting constant change as the norm is something that if you wrap your brain around, if you can wrap your mindset around that change is the only constant, we're just waiting for the next change to come. It is the norm. The rest of what we're going to talk about today is going to make sense. So again, if it feels like everything is changing, it is. Everything changes at some point in some time. So here, one thing that I quickly realized when I became a business owner and a leader was the old leadership models of control go out the door. If you try to control change, if you try to manage change, you're going to run yourself ragged. Burnout will occur because if we're controlling the uncontrollable. So, when we got to break down really what the Flux model looks like is we got to lose control. We got to give up control of whatever we're trying or whatever challenge we're going through. Step number 1. I don't care how you got to get there, what you got to tell yourself, what trance you got to put your mind in. The old model of leadership, control, everything, control and command, we have to lose because constant change is upon us. So John, what are you talking about? What does this whole controlling mindset look different than the Flux mindset? 1, our common emotional response when something is changing can be fear, it can be control, right? That's an emotional response, or it can be stagnation. And our minds are geared for that. When danger occurs, when something changes, we want to get back to what we're familiar with. So we are fighting evolution. When I talk about the fact that you got to wrap your brain around this flux mindset, you really do, no pun intended, because what we're doing is we're fighting against our physiological response to change, to fear, and we try to control it. Because That's what we've done our whole entire life. When something is unfamiliar, we pull back from experiences to say, okay, what is this like? And if we don't have those experiences to pull back from, then we move into that stagnation mode where we're just frozen and we're not trying to get out of the situation. It's almost like you're paralyzed. Like you can't move, you can't speak, you can't think. And you just continue to think over and over and over again about the change and why the change is occurring. And again, we're trying to control it. All of those things lead to trying to control change. And so we have to have this mindset of it's normal to change. And that doesn't mean passive adaptability. I find when I talk about this, it's like, oh, John, well, you just let it happen. You just let change happen and you just sit back and watch it. That's not what we're going to talk about today. Flux mindset does not equal passive adaptability. It doesn't mean that you just sit back and allow things to happen, because you have to have some type of proactivity along with this mindset. So applications, what I want you to do, I want you to rate yourself or rate your team on how well you believe you handle change and the team handles change, or your business or your organization handles change. 1 to 10. So 1, you don't handle it very well. 10, you guys are superstars. And then what I want you to do is, as we work through the rest of these applications, give yourself 2 to 3 weeks, implement these, and then go back and rate yourself again. And you're going to see a steady incline, I promise. One of the other applications that I want to talk about when it comes to this Flux mindset, name the change. When we name something, when we give a thought, an emotion, an object, a name, it changes the way that we look at it. An example here, I call our team the Agile team. I call our team or our jobs the best job in the world. And that comes from the fact that we're able to adapt. We're the Agile team because we're agile. Like we take on challenges and we just continue. We think about change differently. We think about it as a superpower and not as an obstacle. So name the change. That's the first strategy here. You ready for this one? This one, we're talking about shifting from reactive to responsive. All right. So quickly, think about like panic mode, where you find out something and you immediately get into like this frenzy of, I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know how we're going to make payroll this month. I don't know how, production. There's a lot of things going on in our economy. Tariffs. What if you depend on goods that are imported into, the United States, and your company builds things with those imports? You may be in a panic mode right now. What I want, though, is to switch that mentality into proactive adaptability. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, because reaction is emotion driven. It's fast. It's the very first thing. You hear something and we're automatically reacting. Responding, however, is value driven and it's steady. So remember, we want to be steady, and we want, through flexibility, we want to maintain steadiness through responding, not reacting. Through that fast, just whatever we're thinking, to steadiness. Okay, this is change. I'm comfortable with change. Team is used to change. Our business is used to change. Our organization is used to change. We're going to get through this. Try it on. I want to take a quick break from the episode today to talk about a couple things. The first thing, less than 40% of our listeners are subscribed to our channel. You would be doing me a huge favor if you click on that subscribe button. It helps us grow our Go Be Great community and get this podcast out to as many people as we possibly can. The second thing, are you a small business owner that is drowning in the day-to-day operations? You're delegating tasks and you're still doing all the work. You're experiencing a high turnover. Maybe you don't have the systems and processes in place that you need to run a successful business. I invite you to go over to thejohnespinosa.com, fill out the form to see if you're the right fit. Now back to the episode. And that's exactly one of the points that I wrote down is your team will mirror your response to uncertainty. 100 out of 100% of the time. How the leader models uncertainty and change so will go their business, and so will go their teams. So what do we want to do? Because if we do that, guess who's going to think twice about, is this the place I want to work at? Our top performers. Our top performers, whenever we have this fear and we act on that fear as a leader and as a business owner, our top performers begin to question themselves because they want steadiness. They expect steadiness. They want that flexibility because they're agile, and they begin to think differently about, is this the right place for me? So what do you want to do here? And this is a technique that I use. So get out your pens again, write this down, put it in your notes. Great technique that I use. Pause, pivot, communicate. PPC. Pause, pivot, communicate. And you can even add reframe there in the middle. Pause, reframe, communicate. But I like PPC because it's easier to remember. So what are you going to do? You're going to pause. That prevents us from going into reaction mode, because you're going to still have those thoughts. We can't turn that part of our brain off until we start beginning to program it and think about change differently. But as you are going through this process, just pause. Don't say the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't say the first thing that you're fearful of or what, oh, here we go again. Catch yourself and pause. And then think about how you can reframe or how you can pivot the change or the chaos that is upon you. So what does this look like? What's the opportunity in this? Many times we begin to look at the downside, the challenges, all the obstacles, but there's always an opportunity in failure. There's always an opportunity in a challenge. I've yet to meet a challenge. I've yet to meet an obstacle, or I've yet to go through chaos that doesn't provide some type of opportunity. It's just a proven fact. So here, pause, pivot, and then communicate. And, one thing, I got a question that I wrote down, and this is a question that I like to ask is, what is shifting this week? And I do this in my weekly meetings. And then how can we respond to it? Not react. How can we respond to it? How can, what have we seen before? How can we remain steady throughout the chaos? Great question to ask you, your team, however you want to do that. And then the last one here, and it's a combination. I told you, for those of you that stayed this long, you're going to get some nuggets. Build a culture that normalizes change. So we've got our mindset. We've identified what that flux mindset looks like. We've talked about shifting from reactive to responding. Now, how do we build that culture? How do we ingrain it into our being, right? The think, do, be. So we've talked about how to think differently, how to behave differently, because people are going to model your behavior and your reaction to it. Now, how can we be? What is the culture going to look like? And here we got to embed. In order for us to ingrain something into our being, we have to embed that adaptability into our organizations, into our playbook. And we're going to talk about playbooks here in a little bit. I love developing these playbooks on how we're going to respond to certain things in our businesses. So here again, make chaos and change an advantage. One of the organizations that I lead is going through a massive change, and it's chaos. And there was a couple different times that I caught myself reacting, and I had to pull myself back and say, okay, John, this isn't our culture. We've experienced challenges before. This time may be different, but we've gone through similar challenges. And as I began talking to people, and we leaned on a lot of experienced leaders within the organization and asked them, what's going on here? How can we lead better? Not through control, because that's what initially we tried to do, was we tried to control it. We didn't adapt to it. We were reacting. We weren't responding. And when we begin to think differently about change, that's when the ideas started to flow. That's when the opportunities started to present themselves. And we are going to grow back better than ever. The organization, we had about 600 members, 640 members. And because of some limitations, because of some regulations that changed, we went down to about a little over 150. And it was, and it still is, an opportunity for us to build back stronger. And I don't say that lightly, because that culture, we bond together, we pull together. That's the organization that top performers want to work for. That's the organization that you as a business owner, I as a business owner want to create, because when that organization is just rock solid on adaptability and change, and chaos is an opportunity, not an obstacle, you become unstoppable as a leader, as a business, and as an organization. So, John, one thing that top talent craves, they crave purpose, not perfection. And we tell ourselves everything has to be perfect in order for us to retain and recruit top talent. That isn't the case. We just have to have a purpose. People that work for us that have purpose, they're going to stay through thick and thin. They may go interview and even be offered more money, but because they have a purpose doing what they enjoy, working in a business on a team that has a strong culture, they're going to turn down that job. They're going to think twice. I've seen it happen. I've seen organizations, small organizations, that other large organizations come knocking on people's door because they see these startups, these small businesses thriving, and they want to recruit that talent. But if you've established a rock solid culture around change, adaptability, and chaos, it's going to be very hard for them to leave. So here, rituals and rhythms. This is something that, as I was journaling this morning, I thought about times in my life where I was going through a tremendous amount of chaos or change. And whether you call them anchors or those are the things that, like the rocks, the routines and rhythms put us back in that normalized mindset flow. And that's what Flux is. It's flow. When we begin to feel out of sorts, we're out of the flow. There's a sports analogy. When you're in the flow, like nothing goes wrong. In golf, perfect swing. In swimming, you got the perfect stroke. Running, you're hitting your stride. Whatever that flow is, rhythms and routines get us back into the flow when we get out. So what are your rhythms and routines within your businesses? How can people begin to anchor themselves? How can people begin to ground themselves during chaos? And we're going to talk about the Flux Playbook. It's a way that I've developed a rhythm, a ritual to get people back into the flow. Change is constant. So what is your plan, your strategy to remain steady, to continue to respond and not react? These things don't happen by accident. We have to be intentional about chaos and change. And we do that through a playbook, through just whether you want to call it strategy. I've got away from using the word strategic and more to like, this is our playbook. Whenever the defense throws us a certain set, we're going to respond. We're going to play offense. We're going to lead through change. We're not going to try to manage and control the change. We're going to lead through it because we're responding to what is being thrown at us. We're not reacting and trying to do the same thing over and over again. And the Flux Playbook allows us to do that. So those are our processes. Those are our rituals. Those are the things that we get back to, whether that's communication, whether that's our purpose, our mission, our values, and we pull back to what our culture is. I had a great mentor that whenever things felt like they were getting out of sorts, we huddled up and we got back to what our purpose was, what our meaning was, what our foundation, the whole reason that we became who we were, our being. And that's not fluff. These are your best practices around how you're going to pivot or how you're going to change roles or how you're going to revolutionize the organization. Like, are you preparing? Is your organization prepared for the future? Is it agile enough? Ask yourself those hard questions before you have to respond to chaos. These 3 strategies are going to help you, again, achieve that Flux mindset so that when change comes, you got a playbook, you're ready, and your team remains steady through even the biggest challenges. I believe in you. Go be great. Talk to everyone later. Bye-bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. Click on that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.